I'm rolling.
All right, great. Well, welcome back again. This is Steve with Groovy Woods, and today we're happy to have Mike Gomoll from Joey's Song. You guys have seen me post a little bit, share some of the links about the Joey's Song benefit concert coming up. I asked Mike to come in today to kind of walk me through a few things. And Mike, why don't you explain to us, well, in your words and in your tempo, as to what's going on with this?
Sure. So we started Joey's Song 11 years ago now. Holy cow, it's kind of spine tingling when you think about that. We started it when we lost my son Joe. My son Joe had a particularly heinous form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome. And it caused him to have severe special needs. And back 10 years ago, and even today, it's not a very strong prognosis for a kid with Dravet. And we had two older brother and sister at the time, so we had 3 kids under the age of 7, and one was severe special needs. So starting a charity or trying to do anything other than make it to bedtime was really our goal.
I imagine.
But I had thought a little bit about it even when Joe was alive, that we should try to do something, because the die was cast for him, but that didn't mean we couldn't work on stuff for other people.
Sure.
So after we lost Joe in March of 2010, I had a couple options. One was to crawl inside a bottle of Johnny Walker Red, and there were times when that still sounds like a good option, or it was to do this.
Right.
And so back in the 80s, for those Madison folks, there was a club on University Avenue called Headliners, and there's Church Key, which is still there. They were music clubs, and I was fortunate enough to work there. In music, I was a disc jockey, and I worked in the office, so I had a little understanding of the music business, and music is my passion.
Okay.
So when we were trying to figure out a way to raise some money, music seemed to be a logical way to do that. Our timing was a little bit off. What we originally started out Joey's Song to do was to be actually CDs. Back in the late 10s, is that what we call them?
Yes,
The 10s, the aughts, the 10s? I can't keep it all straight. The compilation kind of charity CDs of rare and unreleased stuff was big. There was a lot of political CDs, depending on your leaning, artists would donate songs. So that was kind of my thought. We were going to do Joey's Song and have people donate songs and put out these CDs.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple to get music cleared gratis like that. To just get a song so that you don't have to pay royalties can include getting 10, 15 signatures sometimes. The publisher, the music company, or the performer. And if one of them says no, then you don't get the song. So it was a lot of work, but we went through it. My partner, Kevin Barrett, who's the executive director of the foundation, did a lot of the heavy lifting on that. And we went through this for a couple cycles with the CDs and had some really cool stuff and some really cool artists. But that was right around the time when people decided they no longer were going to buy music, right? That was the start of iTunes and then the streaming that all came with it.
Right.
And so we did but every time we would put out a CD, we would do the CD release party back in the days when you did CD release parties. We ended up making more money at the physical event than we did with the recorded music, which is the way the business itself has gone for the last 10, 15 years as well. Right. If you're not, somebody that we call by your first name, Bruce, Rihanna, Beyonce, you're not making a whole lot of money off of recorded music. So the model has flipped, right? Back again when you and I were working our way up in the world, the way that the music business worked is you toured to promote the record, right? It was so you get money from the record company, and they put a lot of money into it because if you come into town and play the Coliseum in Madison, there's a lot of records. Now it's completely flipped. The touring was, you tried to make some money on it, but that wasn't it. Well, now it's flipped. Right now, most of the artists make money on the tour and hope to make a little money back at the merch table. Unless you're a big stadium kind of stuff, everybody that's playing the High Noon or the Sylvies always saying, we'll be back at the merch table after the show, right? Sign a few, get a few CDs and sign all that stuff. So that's what happened to Joey's Song too. So after a few of these, we kind of went, we're spending a lot of time and effort on these CDs, and we're making more money on the live events. And right around that time is when a person came back into my life that had been in the 80s, and that was Butch Vig. Butch and I were kicking around the Madison music scene in the 80s. He was in Spooner and I was working at Headliners, and Spooner played Headliners a lot. Yeah. But we had lost touch. I went off to work for IBM. He went off to win Grammys and MTV Moon Men and Platinum Records, and I did not. But a mutual friend of ours, Freddie Johnston, Freddie was living in Madison at the time. Garbage played a big show at where the Mallards play at Warner Park.
Right.
They had the Flaming Lips. They did a dual headliner show.
Right.
And Fred said, "Let's go." And Butch and I took a few minutes and kind of did that. You were the guy with the and connected. So I told him a little bit about Joey's song, and within about 2 minutes of me telling the story, tears were coming down Butch's face, and the marketer in me kind of went, "God, sorry, Butch." But I knew I had it. And so we were talking, and I said, I do this thing every year, this concert. You should come. And of course he said, "Yeah, absolutely." And that snowballed into what is now this kind of live jukebox vibe that we've got going. And it's all, to be honest with you, Steve, we stumbled into it. There was no master plan, but sometimes that's how the best stuff is, right?
Sure.
Similar to your business here,
No
right?
doubt, no doubt.
The parallels are the same. You take something that you love and you just kind of see where it goes, and as long as you're willing to follow something, So now what the Joey Song benefit is every year Butch and Duke from Garbage, along with Freedy and Jay Moran and Pi Cow and some of the local musicians here, kind of serve as a house band. And we invite guests to come in from around the country to come and play with us and play covers, and it's kind of a wild night. I know you've been there and you've seen what we do. And even though what we do is deadly serious, how we do it is probably about the opposite of deadly serious.
You almost need that. And I told you, 2 years ago, I went to the Joey Song concert. And it was really because a friend of mine said I have to go to this concert. The music scene is diverse and as eclectic as my taste.
Yeah.
And as I told you, I remember almost every single song, including your son standing up and crooning "Beautiful Boy." And I've only seen it once, and yet the connection of that and the depth of it and what I felt like through what was going to go on at the foundation, I couldn't wait to do something last year. And of course, last year, I don't have to tell you, it just wasn't happening for anybody. So I'm so glad to make the connection with you this year to support the foundation.
Yeah, we're so pleased that Groovy Woods is a part of it and joining, and I think it's just the first step into. I know we're planning on doing bigger and better, and we're hoping you guys will come along with us on that journey.
We're definitely going to be along.
Yeah.
Music's a great connector, as we talked about, and what you guys are doing and involving with, and how is a connector with your son Joe. Makes perfect sense. I've longed to sit out on the patio out here and have the door open and music just blaring, and people will come from around the neighborhood, whether they speak the same language, whatever demographic they are, they always stop. And I've had a few people just sit there and air guitar with me. Right? We don't talk, we air guitar.
That's right. Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're friends, right? So I don't have to tell you. You've been in the music side longer than I have.
Yep.
And so you know what the places that you guys touch with the Joey Song benefit concert. But I guess you got to be thrilled to see that grow because of how much that has helped earn the foundation.
Well, yeah, and that's right. There's a couple elements to it. First of all, what we do is important, right? We are 100% volunteer, and I really want to make sure that's justice. We're a 100% volunteer organization. So there's no paid staff on Joey Song, and none of these artists take a penny.
All right.
All of them come into town for, what will end up being 4 days and 3 nights for our thing. So for the benefit this year on a Saturday, all the out-of-town folks will come in Thursday night. We'll rehearse and do press all day Friday. We'll do sound check and the gig on Saturday, and they'll head out on Sunday. And kind of what I tell the people is, last time we had Brian Ray, who's Paul McCartney's guitar player.
Right.
I don't know what Sir Paul pays Brian for 4 days of his time, but it's not 2 beers and a ham sandwich. And that's all Brian got out of me.
Right?
But so we're all volunteer, and we turn the money around. We turn the money around into research, into these rare epilepsies that are literally taking our kids from us.
Right.
And then we also support some programs to make life better for those around today. One of the phrases that we use is, Joey Song is here to help the next family. And I really mean that, right? We're here to try to help to find cures and treatments that are going to work for people, as well as fund some of the support services that make today better for those that are fighting the battle.
Okay.
So the music is the connector, but it's the artists that make all of that work. You mentioned Sam's performance. Sam later on, after he did that acoustic version with Freedy of Beautiful Boy, came back out and did Don't Let Me Down by the Beatles.
That's right.
And well, first of all, that was Sam's literally first appearance, and I had to explain to him that his path to rock and roll stardom isn't always going to have Butch Vig on drums and Brian Ray on guitar and Duke Erickson on bass, and all the people he had up there playing with him, but to show the spirit that these musicians have and how it connects. So Sam knew he wanted to do that Beatles song, and we had done rehearsal on last year was Thursday because the concert was on a Friday. And we had done some rehearsal, and I had gone up to Brian and I had said, Sam's going to do Don't Let Me Down. And Brian, of course, made a joke. He said, well, we don't do that one very often because that's a John song, but, but he said, and I said, I would really like it if you'd be able to play with it. And he said, of course. And so the day kind of went on, and we got together. There's a little get-together we do the night before the show, and Brian left a little bit early, and it was fine. Talked to him the next day, and I said, "Where'd you go last night?" He said, "Well, I spent 4 hours learning Don't Let Me Down." He was in his room making sure he got, and he got it, of course, perfect.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And Miles Nielsen, who was one of our guests as well, and his wife Kelly, came up to me. This is the absurdity of the role that I play and all this. Came up to me and said, do you think it'd be okay if we came out and sang background on Don't Let Me Down with Sam? These artists, by the nature of their profession, wear their emotions on their sleeve and give.
And their passion
is always there. And then you tie it with something that's meaningful, because unfortunately epilepsy is so prevalent in the community. I can't tell you in the 10 plus years we've been doing this, how many people have come up to me and said, my cousin, my aunt, my brother, we lost to this. My brother was in the military and was, IED, because that's a main cause of epilepsy, is head trauma, right? And so it connects so many people. And if I don't sprain my elbow, patting myself on the back saying this, the way that we do it's a little bit different. We're not a golf tournament, we're not a gala, we're not a walk-in. There's nothing wrong with those things at all. But there's a little bit of a difference in doing this that I think connects people. And I just love the fact that we get these people that, when we're not in COVID, are spending their days on jumbo jets flying around the world playing, and they all come into Madison for a few days to play Beatles and Stones songs. There's something magical about that. There really is.
So I thought I saw on the Joey Song website the theme this year is Party Like It's 1999.
Party Like It's, yeah, because we looked at the artists that we had coming, and a lot of them had really big hits in the 90s. and this is the 9th benefit concert, so 9, I guess to bring the John Lennon connection in here, right? Yeah. 9 seemed to be a number, and it just kind of fit. So, we've got Tanya from Belly. They had big hits in the 90s, so it just felt like a good connection point. Garbage's first couple records came out in the 90s, so it just seemed like a very logical thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome.
It's fun.
I wonder if I can get you to comment a little bit and even kind of school me, because I guess our donation that we did this year, and I hope in the upcoming years it doubles and triples, just like my business has. That money has gone to Badger Camp. Yeah.
So one of the things that we decided to do early on, and have done it since we started Joey Song, is we let other organizations, I guess piggyback is the best word on what we're doing, because I'm going to put on the show anyway, right? So if I can find ways where other organizations, they tend to be pediatric focused, just because it's in my son's name. We give them an opportunity to join us. And so I won't talk about all the details because it'll sound self-serving, but we allow WBC to get sponsors such as Groovy Woods to sell tickets and keep all the revenue themselves. It doesn't have to pass through Joey Song. It's a way to grow the awareness organically and to let more people be a part of that night. And we've done it in the past with Gio's Garden, and we're working on Gigi's Playhouse. We have a smaller arrangement with them this year. They do a care center for kids with Down syndrome, and we hope to do more of that because if hopefully as the show grows, I guess one of the things we didn't talk about is our first one of these back in 2011 was at a sports bar down in Chicago. That wasn't meant to have music. And we had Freedy, we had Michael McDermott and Ralph Covert, and they're all back in the busboy station trying to tune up for their set, and we literally put a microphone down and 2 speakers, to where we are today, which is, 2,500 seats at the Sylvie. And I'd like to, every time I drive by the Kohl Center, I just kind of look at it and go, someday we'll get there. And bringing along all of the very worthwhile organizations in the area. It seems like a logical thing to do. It's you know, we all do better when we all do better.
There's so much synergy about what you've got going on, and I think that's what I picked up on the show 2 years ago. It was like, oh my God, the synergy. While it's eclectic, it's like if you don't like this song, wait until it's like the weather.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because when people ask me about the show, and you know, not everybody knows all of the artists, and I say, well, you got to understand, it's really like a big jukebox, as I said to you earlier, because nobody's going to get up there and go, you know, I wrote this song yesterday about my peanut butter sandwich. You know, let me play it. You know, we try to get the guests to play their hits.
Right.
And they play 1 or 2 of their hits, and then the requirement is everybody plays a cover. So at least a cover. And so, and then by the time the Know It All Boyfriend set comes, which is all covers, you know, so to your point, Steve, is that even if you might not know who Dave Pirner from Soul Asylum is, or Chris Collingwood from Fountains of Wayne, you know who the Beatles are, you know who the Stones are, you know who AC/DC is, and you'll hear songs that you know. And that's, there's almost kind of a rule as we're putting together the set list of nothing esoteric, no B-sides, you know, because the idea is to have everybody walk on there and go, man, that was great.
Jam was awesome.
That was great.
It was great.
I didn't know who half those guys were until tonight, and they were great.
He said, I'm just a guy, you don't know me from nothing 2 years ago, and I walked out of there almost changed. Like, how do I get involved into the music scene? And I didn't know 6 months later I'd be into this Groovy console music cluster. I had no idea, and now to be full circle, to come in and help you guys out.
That's great.
For more. So people that are watching this, where can they go for tickets aside from calling me for the 30 that I have, which are more going out to people that I know are donating with the cause as well. So I'm doing a VIP event here, but for those that just want to get on, get tickets and go.
So everything's through joeysong.org. So good old www.joeysong. You know, everybody tells me I don't have to do the www anymore, but it's like instinct. I still say it. So through that it has information on the show, a link to tickets, you can donate. Soon there'll be the auction items, will be up there listed. We've got an auction with some really cool guitars and stuff all donated. So that's the easiest way to keep up on stuff, because hopefully we're not done announcing all of our guests yet. We've got a couple folks that we're still working on as well. So hopefully we're still...
And I remember that being the case last year. Leading up to it, our friend Steve Landy was telling me, oh, they got somebody coming for this week. And as we were getting closer, it just turned into this, I can't believe I've never heard of this and not going to the rest of my life now.
And so that's the best place. And then obviously on all the socials, Facebook and Instagram and all that. If you can follow us on that. Yeah, there's plenty of wood here for me to knock on. When we announce some of the other folks that we think we're going to get, that's a way to keep up on as well. Not that the roster right now isn't more than
that's right.
Yeah,
right. Between the roster you have going on now, the venue of the Sylvia, you know, the momentum that you have going on, it's like, you're right. The Cole Center is just 3 years from now. So
someday. And I guess the other thing we should talk about is we've added a little humor to the show this year, which we had never had in the past, but the Sylvia allows us to have some of that flexibility to do it. So we have 2 fairly prominent, funny people joining us. First, especially for Wisconsin folks, is Charlie Behrens, who does the Manitowoc Minute. And Charlie's going to join us and kind of co-host and do some of his comedy in between sets.
That's amazing, and I don't know if my wife is holding the camera, she's jiggling, and because that's her favorite, by far, comedian. I mean, she's died in Newell, Wisconsin. I'm obviously, with my accent, not really a Wisconsin guy, but I watch him, and just now, all of a sudden, I'm learning how to talk Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I learned how to make an old fashioned, by the way.
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out, is if we can get Charlie to spend most of his time behind the bar mixing old fashions. And then the other person that we've got coming is Joel Hodgson, and Joel was the creator of Mystery Science Theater 3000, which if you were anywhere near a TV and maybe coming home late some nights, you would watch MST3K in a state of inebriation and laugh and howl. And Joel's also a Wisconsin boy, and he's gonna come and he's got some special stuff that he's working up as well. So we're gonna keep adding to the bill and add a little more stuff. And I guess the other one that so if you were there a couple of years ago, you know Miguel Cervantes joined us. And Miguel is now the lead in Hamilton on Broadway. So he just started doing that because literally he moved out last March, and then COVID shut down Broadway. Miguel's not going to be able to join us this year, but Miguel's going to tape a performance as well. So
Nice,
we'll have
nice.
a little bit more Hamilton kind of
That's
on
awesome.
as well. So lots of cool stuff, lots of really great stuff.
I remember his performance 2 years ago.
Well, I don't know if you remember, I have to tell this story because I still can't comprehend it. So Miguel had a daughter, Adelaide, who had epilepsy, who he had lost. They had to take her off life support in September, and he played our show in December.
Right.
And that solo song that he did, he wrote to her while she was still alive. He had just buried his daughter 3 months before, and he stood in front of 1,000 people and sang that love song to his daughter.
Right.
I cry at grocery store openings, so
Oh,
getting me to
yeah.
cry isn't a big deal, but I cry right now just talking about it.
Right.
I mean, the strength of character of that man and of people, when you have the cause that we have and the fight,
Right.
it's unbelievable. And that night he was amazing, just simply amazing.
Well, that's great. So I think we kind of covered it all.
Okay.
Was there anything else we needed to? Am I leaving out? I mean, I really wanted to learn a little bit more about what we had going on this
Yep.
year, and you killed that. So
The only other thing we could do, if you wanted me to run through we don't have to. I could run through who's coming.
well, if you know off the top of your head, because you called every one of them. I know.
I live-
No, that would be great if you would do that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah.
I know half of it.
Yeah, yeah.
From visiting the website every other day.
Yeah. So we're really excited. As I mentioned earlier, we've got Butch and Duke and Freedy and the Know-It-All Boyfriends, who are our backbone every year. And this year our guests include Dave Perner from Soul Asylum, and I will spare all of you from singing. So you're gonna have to Google Runaway Train or Black Gold or Misery or any of Dave and Soul Asylum. So we have Jody Stevens, who is the drummer in Big Star. So again, some of us of a certain age,
Right.
there's a hallowed status that those 3 Big Star records have there. For some of us in that kind of music, those records are a roadmap
Right,
to
right.
great music. So Jody's joining us from Memphis. He was the drummer. He's the lone surviving member of Big Star. We've got Laura Jane Grace from Against Me. For those folks into the proto-punk scene, Against Me is just a powerhouse, and Laura Jane is phenomenal. She's joining us. We've got Tanya Donnelly and Gail Greenwood from Belly. Again, I won't sing Feed the Tree for people, but Tanya was also in the Breeders and lots of other bands, lots of Seminoles 80s and 90s bands, and she's just a phenomenal artist. We have Chris Collingwood from Fountains of Wayne, of course, who comes back every year, and that entire Fountains of Wayne catalog is amazing. And they'll be a little more poignant this year because they lost Adam Schlesinger to COVID early in the crisis, and Addis was the co-songwriter with Chris. So we're glad that Chris is able to join us. And we've got Kay Hanley from Letters to Cleo. Letters to Cleo had some 90s hits as well.
Yeah.
Miles Nielsen and his wife Kelly Stewart, who join us every year and do a tremendous job. Miles' band, The Rusted Hearts, is a backbone band here in the Midwest. And then of course we've got Charlie and we've got Joel as well joining us. So and as I keep hinting at, hopefully a few other folks. Some of the larger acts take a little bit longer to confirm, but we're close on a couple folks that might move the needle a little bit. So it's a great lineup, and as we talked about a little bit earlier, everybody's doing covers and their hits, right? There's no obscure B-sides. There's no noodling around on the guitar. It's a song. So even if you don't know some of the names I said, you're gonna have 4 hours of music where you're gonna know 85% of the songs.
And that's the other thing I remember was you had this big cast of characters, and the show just moves. It just moves on. There's no big breaks where you're sitting around waiting, and for this to go on. The show just rolled on, and it felt like I was there for 12 hours, but also felt like it was happened in 2.5 hours or something.
Well, and that, Steve, is kind of the serendipity of it as well. When you've got 3 drummers and 3 bass players, everybody's, if you pay real close attention, everybody's just jumping in and out. And so full disclosure, I have no musical talent whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I have negative musical talent. Any music I'm involved in goes down, goes below the line.
Right.
But these guys are all just kind of figuring it out as they go along. And to watch them rehearse, and just before the show's going on, the set list gets posted in the back. They're looking around, who wants to drum on, Moni Moni, and who's going to play bass on Back in Black? And I will, and they just hop in, and it's just to have that talent and that skill is amazing. But that's what allows us to keep that flow going, because once once the first, it's just, we bring in a different drummer, not a different kit.
Right.
Right? So, you know, and that's what makes it.
It just rolls on, and it's so much fun. Oh my God! But I can't thank you enough, Mike, for coming in and helping me explain what goes on with Joey's song on this benefit concert, let alone with the foundation that you guys do. It's such great work. Can't wait to be a stronger part of it. And again, everyone that's watching this, please log on to www.joeysong, 2 S's, Joey's Song, all right, so I'll add that part, .org, and it's an amazing event. That'll just blow you away, so you'll please join us on that one. And any questions, shoot me an email. Mike's been easy to find. I found him and asked him if he'd come in here, and he didn't even say I had to fill up the martini glasses.
No,
so,
well, they were half full. They're not full anymore, but that's, you know, it's late in the day.
I'm going to have you back for another happy hour for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Absolutely.
so thanks so much for coming in today.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it, man. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, man.
Thanks a lot.